Good evening, and thank you for joining us here at 6th Avenue for another midweek word. We're grateful to God for your presence, grateful to God that God has allowed us to come together one more time. We would ask that you turn in your scriptures to Luke chapter 24. We will read simply from verse 10. That's Luke chapter 24, verse 10. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women with them who told this to the apostles. This is God's blessed word for God's blessed people. And we give thanks to God for this word. Tonight, if we had to title this study, we would call it Fambili. Fambili. The main argument in Black Panther concerns ideology. How people define duty and responsibility. Seeing the big screen versions of Nakia, Okoye, Shuri, Queen Ramonda, and all the women of the Dora Milaje is something that I, a black man who's a comic book nerd, never expected to see in my lifetime. I've read, researched, preached, and written about black characters in comics over the years. And I'm deeply invested in comic book fandom. But the comic book industry rarely seemed invested in me. Any given white man can easily walk into a comic book store and see an abundance of superheroes that look like him. He's surrounded by an industry that empowers him to believe he can be anything he wants to be, at least metaphorically. But Black Panther takes that supernatural, extraordinary stuff of modern myth and gives it to a bunch of characters who aren't white men and include black women. And it bolsters our confidence and gives us the courage to believe in how we see ourselves. Now, before I go any farther, I want you to know that I am not going to be talking about what is happening in the new movie. There are no spoilers, so no need for a spoiler alert. But I do want to remind us of what has gone before in the first Black Panther movie. Because it's still important for our culture, and it's important for us, for our religion. It's important for us and our relationship with God. Because now, when you don't see yourself represented in popular culture, you feel like you don't matter. You feel like you don't have value. You feel like your worth is less important than that of others. I can't say this enough. The fact that Shuri, a 19-year-old black girl, is the head of the Wakandan design group, and according to the producer, Nate Moore, is the smartest person in the Marvel universe is a very big deal. I'm certain that Shuri's presence alone will empower more black girls and women to pursue STEM fields. Science, technology, engineering, and math, and join math groups and organizations, just as I'm certain that the depiction of the Dora Milaje will encourage more black girls and women to take martial arts classes or at least cosplay as their new favorite characters. This is how representation works. You see someone, real or fictional, and you feel inspired to do what they do. It may not necessarily be the exact same thing, but you feel bold enough to take a leap of faith. Because if they can do it, I can do it. The Dora Milaje are superheroes, and thanks to their portrayal in the first Black Panther and the current Wakanda Forever, so many black people can see themselves as heroes too. From slavery to the present, black women have had to contend with four major stereotypes. First, the Jezebel, the hypersexual woman who sought to corrupt the good morals of white men. Second, the mammy, the dutiful caretaker who ensured that everyone, white and black, adhered to the tenets of white supremacy. Third, the matriarch, an ultra-domineering woman who terrorized her children and castrated her male partner. And fourth, the welfare mother, who was an update of the Jezebel, a woman with no work ethic or sexual morals, who has multiple children just to receive government assistance. Notably absent among those stereotypes is the idea of the righteous warrior. The Dora Milaje aren't the only way in which Black Panther brings pre-colonial African ideals into modernity. As Nathan Connolly has written for The Hollywood Reporter, the movie contends with 5 centuries of imagining a world without a history of environmental degradation, colonialism, cultural genocide, or the elevation of white aesthetics to the exclusion of all else. Part of the real work of creating such a world must begin with moving Black women, in the words of Bell Hooks, from margin to center, and creating an aesthetics that challenges, refutes, and destroys those stereotypical concepts of Black womanhood. The importance of this achievement cannot be overstated. For Black women and girls the world over, Wakanda represents a fictional world in which their natural beauty and intelligences are accepted norms of a society that values and affirms both their humanity and their femininity. How much more significant then to know that this vision is based in reality. There are really 4 women who are central to this movie, Black Panther. And they're central to our study today because there were really 4 women who were essential to the spread of the gospel. They were the first preachers of the gospel, and they came there early in the morning to find an empty tomb. First, let's talk about Queen Ramonda. Queen Ramonda is known for the line, "Show them who you are." She's an advisor to King T'Challa and serves on the Wakandan High Council. She's the stepmother of King T'Challa, mother of Shuri, and the wife of the late King Shaka. She is the wise thinking matriarch of the royal monarchy in Wakanda. She married King T'Chaka after his first wife died giving birth to T'Challa. Queen Ramonda raised the future king from infancy and is the only mother that he has ever known, and he loves her deeply. Queen Mother Ramonda is a fair and capable queen and provides T'Challa with the sage counsel and motherly tutoring that even a noble warrior needs. The word family itself implies brokenness, because families are made up of people and people are broken. Look at this. Queen Ramonda steps in and raises a child that is not her own, and she raises him to be king of Wakanda. Joseph steps in and raises a son that is not his own, and he raises him to be King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Joseph raises Jesus to be King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Though he was born in a manger, though he was the son of an unwed mother, his parents know that he is born to be King of Kings and Lord of Lords. They know who he is. They know his stock. From the outset, they know he's important. Just like Ramonda knows that T'Challa is important. She knows who he is. She raised him even though he wasn't her own. She knows what she's raised him to be. She knows she didn't raise any junk, though he comes from a broken home, though he comes from an imperfect circumstance, though he comes from a blended family, she knows that her stepson was born to rule. Beloved, don't you let your pedigree or your lack of pedigree disqualify you. Don't you let your home situation take you out of the game. Don't let it bench you. Don't let it hinder you. You were born to be king. You were born to rule. Somebody stepped in and raised you to be king. Somebody stepped in and loved you like a son and treated you like a daughter. It was a teacher, a neighbor, a preacher, a stepmom, a stepdad who saw them in themselves and who saw themselves in you, no matter who your parents were or were not. Somebody loved you like their own and treated you like their own. And one of my favorite parts of the first Black Panther movie is when M'Baku challenges T'Challa for the throne in ritual combat. After M'Baku throws a couple of combinations that daze T'Challa and bring him to his knees, his stepmother, Queen Ramonda, she is the voice he hears yelling, "Show him who you are." Ramonda can tell him that. Ramonda can say that to him because she raised him. She knows who he is. And beloved, that's what we need. We need people to step up, step in, and take our children back. We need people to realize that our children are queens and kings no matter who their parents are. We need people to come and put their hands on us and steer us in the right ways and teach our children the right things and show our children the right paths, regardless of who their parents may be or may not be. We need parents to step in when the times are hard and when the chips are down and say, "Show them who you are. You are a child of the King. Show them who you are. You are a prince, not a pusher. Show them who you are. You are a princess, not a pushover. Show them who you are. You are sovereign and not subject. You are monarch and not a misfit. You are chief, not a chump. You're a thinker. You're a lion, not a lamb. You're an emperor, not empty. Show them who you are. When life throws its combinations on you, when life knocks you down, when life gets you down, when the world itself seems set against you, challenging you, trying to defeat you, trying to consume you, show them who you are. Stand up. You are a king. Ramonda prepares the king. She tells him and reminds him of his greatness. Tell them of their greatness. Tell the children of their power. Tell the children of their uniqueness. Tell the children of their ability. Tell them of their responsibility. Tell them how special they are. If it wasn't for the women, who would prepare the king? Fambili. That word, fambili, I neglected to tell you at the outset. It means forward. It is the battle cry of the Dora Milaje, the battle cry of the royal protectors. It means forward. And every time the king is knocked down or the king is challenged, they scream out, Fambili! It's time to move forward. Whatever challenges the king may face, whatever challenges the people may face, they move the people forward with that battle cry. Not only must we prepare the kings and queens, we have to protect the kings and queens. In the movie, Danai Gurira plays General Okoye, and she is the leader of the Dora Milaje. The Dora Milaje, the words Dora Milaje means the adored ones. They are a team of Wakandan women trained from birth to be some of the best fighters in the world when it comes to martial arts, hand-to-hand combat, and use of weaponry. They protect the throne and they protect the king of Wakanda. But the strong women of Black Panther are more than just a potential inspiration to women in the audience today. They're also a window, if oft forgotten, a piece of history, a window into a true, if often forgotten, piece of history. In the film, the fictional Dora Milaje, the Adored Ones, are an all-female military group protecting the king and the fictional nation of Wakanda. They are perhaps the most obvious example of female strength and intelligence. They are perhaps, it is clear that one of their main antecedents is the famous all-female West African military corps of Dahomey, West Africa, now known as the Republic of Benin, whom the French dubbed the Dahomey Amazons. The Dahomey king, the king of Dahomey, was constantly surrounded by armed women in public and private life. By the end of the 19th century, an estimated 4,000 women, many of whom began their training as teens, were among the Dahomey military ranks. In war, during the transatlantic slave trade, and in the fight against French colonialism, the Dahomey female warriors were the last line of defense between the enemy and the monarchy, and were prepared to sacrifice their lives to protect the monarch. Not only is this history clearly reflected in the fictional Wakanda where Black Panther is set, but so is the idea of a political system wherein men and women control political institutions together. Though the nation has a monarch, the monarch depends on the central female characters. The Adored Ones come from every tribe in Wakanda. Tribes that were formerly at war with one another for control of vibranium, but who have banded together in service for one another and their nation. Tribes that were once at war now come together to protect what they have. They don't let anybody touch the king. They don't let anybody talk about the king. They don't let anybody plot to overthrow the king. They don't let anybody manhandle or mishandle the king. They don't let anybody badmouth the king. Nobody can talk about the king. The same sisters that talk about your king want him. They want your starting spot. Don't let anybody talk about your king. Don't let anybody lay their hands on your king. Okoye says, if Ross touches you again, I'll impale him to this desk with my spear. When someone is trying to get close to the king, to harm the king, protect your king. When someone is trying to get too comfortable or too loose with your king, protect your king. Mary of Magdala, Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, Joanna and the others protected the king. They went to the tomb first thing Sunday morning in feminine power, expecting the stone to still be in place. They went without anyone to help them move the stone. They went in feminine power with feminine purpose, and that purpose is the Christian witness. They went there prepared to do whatever was necessary to protect their king. And if it wasn't for the women, who would protect the king? Family. You have to prepare the king. You have to protect the king. But then you have to sometimes persuade the king. Nakia is a skilled Wakandan spy. War dogs, they're called. She travels the world. She's worldly, stately, educated, fine and refined. Speaks multiple languages. She plays a special role because Nakia helps the king understand how special he is. He has one of the most powerful resources in the world. People think that it's the vibranium, but it's not. It's her. That's what makes him special. What makes him special is the love and respect of a wonderful, respectable woman. You're special because you're with her. You're unique because you're with her. If he's not trying to move forward, if he's stuck in the same rut, doing the same things in the same way, you can't stay. That's what Nakia told T'Challa. I cannot stay because you're doing the same things the way your father did it. You're doing the same things the way your ancestors did it. And our people suffer all over the world because you will not change. You won't help. So I can't stay. Let's tell the truth. Sisters can hurt brothers because you allow brothers to walk around with your pants hanging below our posteriors, and you still claim us. You allow us to do things that hurt you, us, and everybody that looks like us, talking about charge it to the game, and you still claim us. You allow us to do all kinds of things to you, and you still claim us. You allow us to lay on your couch, in your house, eating your food, driving your car, using your phone plan, using up all the data on that plan, and you call us your man. We're not your men in that case. We your child. No, when a brother's treating you like that, he's not your man. That's your son. You've got to let the king know that if he's not trying to move forward, you can't stay. Let him know you won't put up with it. Let him know you won't stand for it. Let him know that's the end of it. You won't stand for him laying around on your couch just because he might have seen other men like him laying around on his mother's couch. Let him know you won't stand for him having no job because his friends have no job. Let him know you won't stand for him not helping, not contributing, not supporting, not doing anything, not bringing anything to the table except for a fork and a spoon. Let him know I can't stay. You need a man, not a child. Have to persuade him that he's great. And if you don't see your greatness, if you don't see your uniqueness, if you don't see your opportunity, contribution, and responsibility, I cannot stay. What you allow will continue. Help the king understand how unique he is. Help him understand the power he has. Help him understand the opportunity he has. Persuade him that he can be more than what he's seen around him. Show him that he can be more than who his friends are. If it weren't for the women, who would persuade the king that they could be great? Family. Not only must you prepare the king, protect the king, and persuade the king, sometimes you've got to push the king. Look at Shuri. Shuri said, just because something works doesn't mean it can't be improved. Let me repeat that. Just because something works doesn't mean it can't be improved. Just because you're working, just because your car is working, doesn't mean you shouldn't change the oil. Just because it's working doesn't mean it can't get better. Just because it's working doesn't mean you don't need a tune-up. Just because it's working doesn't mean you shouldn't rotate the tires or use high-octane gas. Just because it's working doesn't mean it can't be improved. In Wakanda, young people and old people value each other and heed each other's wisdom. The younger generation is not at odds with the older generation. Likewise, the older generation respects and yields to the wisdom of the youth. In Wakandan wisdom and leadership, there is elasticity. It does not belong to one particular age constituency. The king and the kingdom must be about progress. Tradition and trajectory must have elasticity. Tradition is who we are based on our values, how we've taught and lived them, and how we've grown with and into them. But tradition must be elastic if it's going to be a living tradition. It cannot simply be passed down to the next generation in its current static form. They will not embrace it because we say so. No, it must be tested and proven and embraced organically. Tradition and trajectory must be elastic. Tradition is who we are based on our values, but trajectory is the direction of our progress. Where are we going? How do we get there? That's trajectory. Tradition and trajectory have to have elasticity. We have to improve upon what's working. We have to use every gift that is in the community, every gift that is in the congregation. And beloved, most of our young people feel that they cannot contribute because the seniors have a stranglehold on leadership. If we are to move forward, we must move forward together. These 4 women advanced the kingdom despite what anyone has to say. Despite the disbelief of the men, these 4 women, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, Joanna and Salome, advanced the kingdom despite the disbelief and apathy of the men. They went and told the men that the Lord is risen. Christ the Lord is risen today. And the men rejected them because their minds were warped by their own patriarchy. Their minds were stayed in the trauma of what had happened today. The hope that they hoped for was in their presence, and they rejected it because it came from the women. Fambili is a Zulu word. It means forward. Fambili, the battle cry of the Dora Milaje. When they're faced with obstacles, when they're faced with challenges, when they're faced by enemies, General Okoye yells out, Fambili, no matter the challenge. Fambili, no matter the circumstance. Fambili, no matter the trial. And they move forward together. And beloved, we're faced with challenges, obstacles, trials, and enemies. We must move forward. Hope must go forward. The word must go forward. Salvation must go forward. The gospel must go forward. The church must go forward. Love must go forward. Hope must go forward. Help must go forward. Together, we must go forward. If it wasn't for the women, who would push Christianity forward? Fambili, good evening, and God bless you.